Testing. Making sure that the AirPods are on. All right, guys, good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of G.A.R Capital. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join me this morning and every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just a reminder, tomorrow is CPI, so we'll be starting around 8:45 in the morning or 8:50, kind of like 10 minutes ahead of the 9 o'clock hour, so we can at least focus on the CPI numbers, and then we can move on at 9 to the rest of the day. I didn't do an aftermarket recap yesterday because really not much happened. Really don't want to just waste your guys' time with just the basic stuff. It's just been an absolute chop zone yesterday. So I'll go over that. Yesterday's action, kind of why I didn't really go over it because there's nothing really to go over. Let's go ahead and just get started on the day. The Dow is flat, really, literally flat, zero. 13,100 for Nasdaq, down about 0.63%. S&P down about a quarter point. Russell down about a quarter point as well. Crude oil did bounce today, up or is up 1.18%. Gasoline up 1.69%. Gold futures are up 0.28%. Silver up 0.17%. Euro dollar 102.40, up 47 pips. Dollar yen down 12 pips. Bitcoin futures 23,230. Ethereum 1706. Copper is slightly green, 117.38. Let's just go ahead and expand this and make life easy. Let's go over the dollar index together this morning. Again, like we said, more likely we're probably going to retest this trend line. The dollar is down about 0.36%. Let's go to the 10-year. 10-year, same deal, kind of just chopping around. I got a couple of gaps to fill. You have one here, actually just one to fill here. 228.27 is the number. Remember, we had this gap fill and we filled that, and so on and so forth. The only other gap fill we have is to the upside at 29.10, which would be 2.9%. So for that 200-day has been kind of giving us a guide on the 1 hour. It's been staying below it. Let's go ahead and talk about the Vix Volatility Index. And if you guys remember this trend line, we talked about this yesterday. And it's just been kind of breaking down, kind of knocking on the door. It seems like we are going to break lower on the VIX. Again, below the 200-day on the 1 hour. Again, it's not a tradable security. It is an index, but it is below the 200-day on the daily. The saying goes, nothing is good below the 200-day. How about this? Crude still below the 200-day on the daily. How about yields? Still far away from the 200, but below the 100. S&P futures still below the 200, but above the 100. So you're starting to see here, at least on S&P futures, that 4186, 4200 level is a very big resistance right now. A very tough nut to crack. We're either going to break out of it tomorrow with CPI, or we're going to reject that and go back to around maybe 4,000, 4012, which is that 20-day moving average on the daily. That's really the only thing we could talk about for the most part, is that it seems like a holding pattern. The one piece of news that I wanted to go over was Netflix. And I had a lot of questions on this because this was a trade from last week. And we were down as much as 73 or 74% on it. And again, the trade setup was there. You had the actual bull flag there. You have the wedge, sending wedge, rising flag, whatever you want to call it. Again, bullish price action. In the morning, what happened? We soared to 241.96. I think it got as high as 50%. I may be wrong on Netflix. But again, we were down as much as 70. We held onto it, and then we bounced higher. We shot higher, got out of it immediately, left a runner. Runner went red. That's about it. So again, just a lot of consolidation action, and then we moved higher. I did open a Boeing trade yesterday. It got 40% within seconds on this pop here. And then it just kind of slowed down. We had some news about the 787, I believe, or the 737, and then it came back down. Very similar pattern to Netflix. I'm still holding it. A lot of our traders actually got it, but I'm still holding this trade, and I think we go higher. So I'm keeping an eye on Boeing. And again, it's not a tech company, as we know. It's an industrial. So again, the Nasdaq doesn't really have that much bearing on a Boeing. So again, that yellow line here on Boeing is really that gap fill that we had at 166.80. So once we had that gap fill, that's the level that I'm looking for continuance or an actual support. We have one more at 176.61. So you could see that gap was not filled No, it was not filled. So I could draw a line here, and I'll make it easier. You just want it nice and even, right? And then we'll extend it to the right, and we can extend this to the left. And you can see that is the exact gap fill, 176 or so. I personally have the 175 calls I'm still holding. So again, the gap fill here was the support. It is now slightly above it. The only issue is that you have one more gap to fill here at 159.72. So it just really depends on your view. So again, you do have a nice ascending formation, or trend line, if you want to call it, to the upside. You also have one more gap to fill here. But again, I am playing it to the upside right here to around 176.56. I think we get it. The reason I'm saying that is because it's very similar to Netflix. That Netflix setup was pretty similar. Again, kind of ascending price action. Same thing with Boeing. Takes a while. We all kind of freak out. We're all like, oh, did I miss it? What happened? What do you think about this? Again, I'm just trying to give you some insight on how trading works. Trading is waiting. It just really is. I got as high as 38% on Boeing, and then it just started getting flip-flopped, and it came back down. So it happens. Sometimes you got to take the scenic route and just kind of wait for things to come alive. So that's Boeing. That's what I'm watching today. Let's go and answer some questions. Thomas says, on Roblox and Coinbase earnings today. Well, as we know, we had a lot of earnings yesterday. We had a lot of meme stocks or the high betas, Upstart and what have you. So we can go to Upstart on the 1 hour, and you can see that's down pre-market. So let's see if I can bring up the pre-market movers. Let's go to investing.com. All right, let's see what is moving. Actually, let's get back to Roblox. I do own Roblox. And again, kind of the same setup pattern, just been absolutely bullish so far in the 1 hour chart. Let's see the daily. Daily year resistance here is around 50.97. A crapshoot when it comes to earnings because we don't know. I don't have inside information on Roblox. And at the end of the day, you really, if we don't have the information on what we're doing here, we don't have a lot of edge here. The only thing I could tell you here is that we do have a gap to fill at 66.52. You do have 60.35 as your 200-day. If you started breaking above 51.61, sure, probably the 66 calls, maybe you buy some time, but I'm not salivating over this trade, especially with earnings ahead. So again, I wouldn't do much on this. And regarding Coinbase, Coinbase is all about that BlackRock deal. And they filled its gap. There's one more gap to fill to the upside around 176.45. I think eventually we do get there. And then we'll go ahead and fill this gap to 220. Just not going to happen today. So you have that 100-day moving average on the daily active resistance. I wouldn't touch any of those today at all. I think it just wouldn't be worth it unless you just want to throw a shot in the dark and buy a lotto ticket, if that's the case. Feeling a bull trap vibe, 0-day calls. I mean, sure, Jonathan, I agree with you. I mean, you could definitely get some shorts here. You could definitely get a little bit of a pullback. Right now, you're at a point where the market is just, we don't know what's going to happen. Tomorrow's such a big day for the market. And then next week, we have retail sales. So again, a lot of chop is what I expect. Again, you'll get some pockets of companies that may outperform. Yesterday, we had the high betas. Boeing outperformed. Tesla outperformed yesterday for the majority part of the day. What underperformed? NVIDIA underperformed. NVIDIA being the laggard of the Nasdaq, and right now it's still holding that support of 172.17. If that did break, then I would want to target the 165 puts. Micron actually had an earnings. Was it? And earnings, I think it was the earnings warning. I think that was, let me see if I could find it exactly, the breakdown on Micron, because I saw it this morning. Micron discloses Q4 revenue may come in at or below the low end of revenue guidance range provided in our June 30 earnings call. Expect a challenging market environment. Now, again, Micron has just been one of those names that just has been underperforming the major chip makers, the SMH, like NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm. They've been underperforming. And you could see here that, this is what it is. For students, for MasterClass, I think they caught Micron. They did catch that ahead of time. So well done. Right now, you're kind of in this support area of around 58. If we go and bring up the 4-hour chart on Micron, if it can hold at least 58, I mean, if it breaks down below 58, you have as low as 55 to go. or 53.89. So again, you're right there on the, take a look at the daily and give us a little bit of insight. 58.93. Yeah, that's below any major moving average. That's where you're probably looking at 57, or not even 57. I don't give us enough room. I still won't even trade this here. Maybe 55 puts if you have time. The problem is that if the market does roar tomorrow with CPI being better than expected, again, I don't know. Micron's is gonna go higher. But again, right now it is a coin flip. Unless I know something or you know something that I don't in terms of CPI, we don't know what's gonna happen. So again, this is where price action comes in. This is where technicals come in. That's really all you could do. If you're looking at QQQ and I have calls, again, this support area, again, resistance, resistance, now is support, and you could see 317.74, the 100-day. All it is holding support. I do expect this to bounce back at least, and then kind of get us back to around 323 or so. What do you recommend for the 12 calls of Palantir? Palantir died. That was a masterclass trade. It was a pure lotto on that one. Nick talked about it. It's dead. It's gone. That's not going to work, man. It was a pure lotto play, and it didn't work. Retail bearish or bullish MM that's burned up both sides. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, the market makers are going to want to make sure they collect their premium. But I think tomorrow we'll get one side of the coin. Usually on Fed days, you kind of get both sides. But when you get those kind of big numbers, like a CPI, we've had initial reaction being red and then we bounce back. So it's a tough one to kind of call. Usually the Fed days, are kind of one direction. The days when you have inflationary data, it goes both ways. And it's so tough to call. That's where it is. It's so tough to call. Seems like oil is going up. Is high CPI good for oil? Yes, it is, because commodities are beneficiaries of high inflation. So again, if we do have higher than expected inflation, then oil is going to bounce. If it's lower than expected inflation, oil will fall. And again, it's been kind of hugging that 200-day. So again, 93.25, we may tap that. And reason that we actually had oil prices go up is because we actually had some Russia news. Russia suspends oil exports via southern leg of Drozhba pipeline due to transit payment issues. So that's the initial reaction to with oil right now, is just that Russian stuff. So again, I still think oil continues to fall. And again, if you think it continues to rise, fine. This is what makes a market. But I think it will continue to fall personally. Again, if we start breaking above the 200-day on the 1 hour, if we start breaking some major moving averages like the 200-day on the daily, 94.72, then we can go ahead and revisit. I did close my Chevron position for a profit, so I pretty much neutral on oil right now. Thoughts on crypto? Still holding. Nothing has really changed on that end. Again, if we think the Fed is going to cut by next year, then you're just going to see crypto will accelerate to the upside by next year. Excellent puts on the watch list. Could be. But again, really the question here is what happens at the bell? What happens when we move forward? Does it break the 200-day on the daily? Does it break the 200-day on the hourly? Again, kind of pre-market action, unless you're trying to close immediately, not really much to look at. Does Tesla split on the 17th, or is just recording on file shares you own to qualify the split? Is the exact split date yet? Let's see. Tesla stock split. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking up at Barron's. Let me get the exact date. August 17th, we'll get a dividend of 2 new shares for each share held. So again, if you had 1 share of Tesla, now it's going to be 3. That's basically the same thing with Google, same thing with Amazon. It's a special dividend. It's just a split. That's all. So that's all we have to kind of go by. I mean, I'm kind of looking at the market. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't do much. If there's one I want you to look at for the most part is small caps. Small caps have been riding higher. IWM, again, kind of staying pat here. Let's take a look at the daily on IWM. And again, right above the 100, actually outperforming S&P. $200 is your 200-day. If we can get there and stay above there, we should accelerate higher, but that 200-day is key. So I'm watching that extremely closely for at least small caps. Small caps will be the first to head higher. Now, again, is this a bottom? I don't think so. But again, if we do go higher, then we just have to play it as it lays, right? At the end of the day, we just have to kind of ride with the market. Again, we're not predictors, we're reactors. That's all we can go by. Holding football long enough, maybe back up for a World Cup. Maybe. I mean, I own football. What a dud right now. I actually still use football TV every weekend to watch F1, to watch soccer, football, you name it. So again, the high beta names are running together. We talked about sector and themes yesterday, where that if you have a thematic investing style or an idea, you have to go by sectors. Football TV, Upstart, Palantir, those names are part of the high beta tech growth name, or you could say our ARKK type names. When they run together. Sometimes you'll have one kind of be down more than the other, sure, but they run together. Micron is down today. That means Nvidia is going to be down today. That means AMD is going to be out today. That means Qualcomm's going to be down today. Why? Because they're in the same sector. Hello, look at it. Micron down 4.18%. Intel, Qualcomm, Analog Devices, Texas Instruments, AMD, Nvidia, Broadcom, they're all going to be down. And that's how it works when it comes to sectors. Unless it's a very specific stock news, then usually the actual sector runs together. So that's really what you're looking for. Hating on our Palantir now, I want to buy a Leap. I have Palantir. I own it. So again, I actually bought some more shares. But again, just like I talked about in terms of Nvidia, I'm just giving it the 3-day rule. Let's see if we break below 940. And again, this is day one. If we kind of stay around there, I did this with Target as well. Give it the 3-day rule. Let's see where the dust settles and go from there, guys. What indicators do I use? I use moving averages and sometimes fibs. I do have fibs on the board, but that's really it. Really, all the indicators are your eyes because you get it. You start to really see things over and over in a pattern. Plus, defense, the Braver cybersecurity is big short term. That's true. CrowdStrike is a good one. A lot of people like CrowdStrike. But again, we just have to kind of right now the focus is really CPI. And I think that's what the market is looking at now. We don't know where it's going. A lot of positioning here. But again, there's a lot of bearish indication too. A lot of people are bearish. The short interest on S&P futures is the largest since 2016. So that tells me either someone knows something, everyone is really pessimistic, or we're going to get an extremely violent squeeze higher. When everyone's on one side, what happens is that if the market doesn't actually go by the way they want, you're going to go higher. This is what we had. You're talking about from the bottom. How much did we jump? 14% on S&P since the June bottom. Short squeeze, sure. Buying, sure. We just have to wait and see. That's why tomorrow is so darn important. We'll go ahead and talk about it tomorrow. Have a great rest of your afternoon. I don't know if we're going to have much news to talk about. Again, I'm just going to skip the aftermarket recap today. I mean, it's kind of the same deal. Unless something big happens, I let you guys know on Instagram anyways. But really, CPI is the big deal, guys. That's really it. You could pretty much take the day off if you wanted to, because tomorrow is the big day. It is at 8:30 in the morning, CPI, and then Thursday, PPI. I'll catch you guys for that. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers.